Hi. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Glad to see we have some people in the chat. Nice to see you all here. Thanks for joining tonight. Welcome, welcome. I see people are joining from all over, so welcome, everybody. So thank you for coming to another edition of ArtSnacks Open Studio. So happy to have you all here. And I'm really excited to try out some of these new materials with you guys and to do some fun drawings. So it's going to be really fun. If you are working as well, let us know what you're working on. Let us know what you're working on in the chat. And you can also join us over on Mix. If you're not familiar what I mean when I say join us on Mix, ArtSnacks Mix is the exclusive community for art snackers. It's totally free to join, and you don't have to have a subscription already to join the community. It's over at mix.artsnacks.co. And you can join, you can post your work, you can look at other people's artwork, and it's really, really awesome. So I'll share this again at the end, but if you're working on something alongside us this evening, please do share your work. I would love to see it. Yeah, there is also a open studio community on Mix, so please do check that out. So if you weren't here with us last week, I'll reintroduce myself. My name is Amelia. I am an illustrator and I live in Baltimore, Maryland. And I'm really excited to be partnering with ArtSnacks again with this great, fantastic project. And I'm going to talk about the materials that I have here with me. These are all materials that I got from the ArtSnacks Shop or in an ArtSnacks subscription box. But before I jump in, I have one other announcement that I want to share that is really exciting. Is that there is still a birthday sale going on in the ArtSnacks Shop. And if you didn't know, ArtSnacks has been around for 10 years. It's so amazing. It started in 2013, so it is 10 years old. That's 10 years of amazing art snacks that we've all gotten to enjoy. So if you go to the ArtSnacks Shop, you can get 50% off of select items if you input the code 10 years. But tomorrow is the last day to do it. So the last day is March 10th. So if you're going to do some shopping in the ArtSnacks Shop, you should do it tonight or tomorrow to take advantage of that awesome sale. This code also works for if you are not yet a subscriber, but you're interested in subscribing. You can use code 10 years to get $10 off any 3, 6, or 12-month plan or quarterly plan. And that includes the Art Snacks box, the Art Snacks Plus box, watercolor snacks, or art journal snacks. So that is pretty awesome. And if you didn't know, I think I mentioned this last week, but if I didn't, there is a quiz you can take on the ArtSnacks website to find your perfect ArtSnacks subscription plan. So if you're not sure what you want to try out, you can go over to shop.artsnacks.co to check that out. And that's also where you can shop. So pretty cool. Awesome. So I am really excited to share with you what I got from the ArtSnacks Shop. I did take advantage of the sale, and these were some of the other things I got. I'm probably not going to use them tonight, but I got a Copic marker, and I got the Fude nylon brush, the Copic Fude brush. These are two of my favorite like sketching supplies, so you'll probably see me using these sometime in the future. But I had to grab these while they were on sale. They're two really great things. The other thing I grabbed, this was not part of the sale, but I could not resist, the Stabilo Woody 3-in-1 pencils, and I treated myself to the big pack, but there are smaller packs with fewer colors, so if you don't want to go all out and get all the colors and you just want a couple, there are a few, but that was one that came in I want to say the January box. That was so much fun. I had so much fun playing around with it. And they're really cool. They are described as multi-talented pencils, and you'll see why when I use them. But a really cool thing that I actually learned just from looking at the box is you can also write on glass with them, and you can wipe off the glass. So if you have young ones in your life that love to draw, on different surfaces. That could be a fun project, especially during the holidays if you want to draw something fun on the window. So that's really great. So I'll open this up in just a minute, but I'll show you the additional tools that I brought. So I have a couple of water brushes. I love water brushes for a number of reasons, but the biggest thing is that I don't need a separate cup of water to do my paintings with. So if I'm on the go or traveling or just feeling particularly lazy and I don't want to have to have a cup of water, I grab these water brushes, and they have water inside the barrel. So you can just squeeze the brush. These are the Derwent water brushes. I like them a lot. I have a couple different sizes and brush tips, but you just push on the barrel here and the water comes out, and you can, instead of going back and re-wetting your brush in a cup, this is my invisible cup here. If I had one, it would be there. But instead of brushing it into a cup, then you can just squeeze it and the water comes out of the brush itself, which is really great. I do recommend having a paper towel handy though, just so that you can clean off your brush in between colors. I grabbed a mechanical pencil. This is a Zebra M350, just 7mm graphite pencil. So it's a handy drawing pencil. And then from last week, when I opened my February box, I had the Pentel Arts Hybrid Technica 5mm. I don't know if I'll use this one, but I wanted to just have a pen handy. And I grabbed two different surfaces, and these are surfaces that I got in ArtSnacks Plus boxes. So if you are a Plus box subscriber, you get an additional, a couple of additional supplies, including a surface or substrate. So I got a few boxes ago, this is a Fabriano mixed media sketchbook. If you joined me when I was teaching art class with Amelia, I primarily used the 1264 Fabriano mixed media sketchbook. It's really great because it has a nice like heavy duty paper. I have some little sketches in there already. It's a nice heavy duty paper. It can handle both wet and dry media, and it can also handle marker pretty well. So I like it because it's really versatile. It can use a lot of different supplies in it. But I did also grab some hot press watercolor paper. I could go on and on about the difference between hot press and cold press paper, but the basics are the hot press finish means that it's smooth because when it went through the rollers, it just smoothed out the surface. Cold press watercolor paper has the texture to it, so it has what's called a tooth. And so that has that bumpy looking surface when you do a painting, and it has that really like textured look to it. That's what it looks like. So both are great for different types of projects. This is especially good if you are using watercolors and another material like colored pencil or pen, whereas the cold press watercolor paper is sometimes a little bit more difficult to draw on top of because of the textured surface. So you can see how this is all nice and smooth. So it's really great for that. And I think when you see these Stabilo pencils in action, you'll see why I opted for a smoother paper in a little bit. So I'm going to set that off to the side because I want to start out with my sketchbook, just swatching out these woody pencils so that you can get an idea of the different ways that you can use them. So I'll open this up here. And this also comes with a couple of other extra supplies, which is nice. Oh, question, is fluid watercolor good? I've really enjoyed using the fluid watercolor paper. I don't know if they make watercolors. I haven't used them before, but I really like the fluid brand because I think it's an affordable paper, and it works really nicely with watercolors. So I'm a fan of it. I used it actually before I even got it in a ArtSnacks box. It was one that I had tried out previously and I really liked. So I was excited to get that in one of the boxes. So I'm gonna grab, just gonna start out with a few. Actually, we'll get back to you, Orange. I'm gonna do just the basic primaries to start with. And then I'll grab black and white, and we'll start with that. And this is great because it comes with a nice big pencil sharpener, which I really appreciate because I don't think any of these would fit in my regular pencil sharpener. So I was like, oh, good. I'm so glad that's in there because otherwise I would have to use like an X-Acto knife to sharpen them. It also is nice because it comes with a Stabilo paintbrush. I'm going to keep this in here because I have my water brushes, but it's really nice, especially if you haven't quite built up a large stock of art supplies yet and you don't have a lot of brushes. It's really nice when one comes with the set because then that's one less thing you have to go out and find if you already have it ready to go. So I'm going to open up to a nice new page, and I'm going to just start out by swatching these so that you can see how they play with the paper and all the different cool things you can do with them. And then I have a drawing idea in mind for we can do a longer drawing with these. So these are they're called 3-in-1 because you can use them a couple of different ways. So they look just like a really waxy colored pencil or a pastel almost. They're super soft and they go on the paper really, really easily, which is really nice. And you can get some nice marks and textures with it. If your paper is a little bit textured, I'll bring this up a little closer so you can see that it does have a nice texture to it. So it grips against the paper if it has a little bit of the tooth or bumpy surface. As I mentioned, you can also use it like a wax pencil. So if you've ever used a wax pencil before, those are really great for writing on a variety of surfaces. So actually I have a ginger ale soda bottle here. So I can draw right onto the glass. I should use maybe a brighter color. So I don't know if you can see it super well because it's so clear, but you can see you can draw very easily onto a glass surface, and then you can just even wipe it off with your thumb or your finger. So it comes off really easily because it's so waxy that it's resisting that smooth surface. So that's the second way you can use it. And then the other way you can use it, and why I got these water brushes out, you can see I like this one because it's got paint all over it. Squeeze that a little bit. Is you can also use it like a watercolor pencil. And you get, the more pencil you have on the surface, of course, the more pigment you pick up. What I really like about this is it, you can still see some of the lines underneath, but it really gets a nice smooth application of color on there. And then you can blend your colors together. It even leaves a little bit of almost a wax resist, depending on how thick your of a layer of pencil you leave. So it might be a little harder to see on the camera, but you can see some of that yellow line work still coming through. So I think that's pretty awesome. I love tools that can be used in several different ways. The thing just to keep in mind if you're going to use these types of materials is that if you're going to use water with it, like if you're drawing with this and then you want to keep the drawing, but you want to do a painting on top, you might want to wait to draw after you apply the water and let it dry because it will pick up the line work. And that's really the main thing just to keep in mind. Oh, no problem. I see you were asking about the paper, the fluid paper, not a problem. Sometimes there are manufacturers that will make more than one type of material. So I wasn't sure myself if they made watercolors. They might, I don't know. I haven't checked, but no problem at all. So yeah. Yeah, I'm a fan of that type of paper for sure. So after you use it as watercolor, then you can go right back on top and draw with the pencil, and it won't, as long as it's dry, it won't lift up the color at all. It'll go on just as smooth and clear as if you were drawing on the paper. So what's pretty cool is, you know, if you wanted to do, this reminds me kind of a sunset, and I'll even grab a couple extra, another color. Here, you could blend your colors together on the paper first. Maybe this is a sunrise instead, just because of the direction it's going in. So if you're blending your colors together on the paper, you can either do it as colors like you were blending colored pencil, and then you can blend them together with a brush. And you don't have to have a ton of water. The less water you use, the thicker the wax crayon will be on your paper. So I didn't use a lot of water, and I have some really nice vibrant colors, but if I add a little more, it will be thinner, and then I'll have a lighter, more transparent color on here, which is nice if you don't want a ton of vibrant color. So it looks really nice. And I just love how you can get it either really vibrant. It's really versatile. There's a lot that you can do with it. And then you can, of course, go back on with other materials too. And if you have just basic colored pencils, so here, this is a Koh-i-Noor colored pencil, the Polycolor, which I also got from ArtSnacks. You can also draw on top, and I did some white of the Stabilo. I had some scribbles in white, and what's kind of cool is it's coming up through the colored pencil and showing through a little bit, which I think is kind of neat. But you can use, you know, this kind of colored pencil with it. And then you can also, now when you're drawing with pen, just be careful because it's a little on the waxy side. And I found that if I try to draw, especially with a gel pen on top of a waxy surface, sometimes it blocks up my nib a little bit. So you might have to just wipe it off if you find that you're not getting the lines to come through. So yeah, I'm having a little bit of a harder time on some parts of it. See how I'm trying to draw on here, and it's not flowing as nicely as here. So it's something just to experiment with. But if you have, this is the Pigma from last week, something like this will draw on top of it a little more easily. So if you wanted to go back over your colors with a pen, then you might want to just make sure that the pen will play nicely with the wax. Okay, and I'm reading through the questions too. Oh yeah, so we had a comment from, or a question from Kedra asking about what are the differences between the Stabilo and other color crayons in the shop, and specifically bringing up Marabou art crayons or gelatos from Faber-Castell. And I actually have the Marabous here. So I can show you using these. And my Faber-Castell, let's see, I think maybe in the drawer next to me. Perhaps not. It's a wild frontier of art supplies in the studio here. So I think they're over on the other side of the room. So these are a little softer. And I think these Marabou art crayons are very similar to the Faber-Castell gelatos in this way, that This almost reminds me of when I was a little kid and I would get into like my mom's makeup and draw with her lipstick. It's really, really soft, and gives a little bit more of a thick line. I mean, if you have it sharper, you can get a thinner line, but it's really, really soft. And then this also you can use with watercolor, or I'm sorry, with water, like watercolor. So it also will lift up and you can use it. But I find that it has just a sort of a different sort of feel and texture to it than these Stabilo. I think the Stabilo ones are just a little waxier. So yeah, I think I feel like the Stabilo is a little more concentrated. The Marabou, it picks up and has a little bit more of like a really soft like almost like a pastel more than a wax crayon. So you're welcome. Yeah, it's I think it's interesting to try out all these different things together and just play around, which is why ArtSnacks is so cool. And I love that these are things I probably never would have thought to try. And I've tried, I think, Neo colors through ArtSnacks. I've tried the Faber-Castell through ArtSnacks too, and I've really enjoyed working with all of them. And it kind of gives like a nice, loose, very vibrant, pigmented color from these materials, which I think is really fun. So yeah, so I've done some swatching and kind of have a good sense of how I can sort of play around with these. So I'm gonna sit my sketchbook aside. Oh, and there's another question about how can you tell the texture if the brush pens have different tones. So you may be talking about something else that I missed, but my brush pens are just filled with water. But if you are thinking about using like a brush pen that has pigment, then I mean you could certainly try it out, and I bet it would lift it up. I would recommend colors that play nicely together. So like red and green are just going to make like a sort of a grayish kind of color because they're complements. But if you had like a green and a blue, that might look nice together. So let me try actually just a little section of blue. So if you have like a paint marker or something, you can mix colors that way and kind of get a gradient with it. So you can go from having like a blue-green to a more pure green type of color too. So you can also do this kind of style. So, okay. So I'm going to set that aside. And I see a request for having me draw a human this time. I do have a plan to draw because I'm thinking about Pi Day is coming up, which is March 14th. And if you're a math fan, you know that 3.14 is the first three numbers of pi, as in mathematical pi. But maybe I'll find a way to work in a character that way. Oh, and you're welcome about the tip for the markers. So I was thinking of drawing a pie and then having some little fruit characters coming out of that. So I'm going to go with that. And then if I can find some time, I'll add in another character too. So I'm just going to sketch it out. And when I do my sketches, they're usually pretty loose. I just kind of get a general sense of where things are going to go. And I save adding the details for after I've kind of figured out where the major parts of the drawing are going to be. So that's kind of just a really light sketch, and then I'll add more detail later. The other reason that I like to just kind of sketch lightly is because if I need to erase anything, then I don't have to press really hard into my paper and have a bunch of eraser marks left behind. Now, my eraser is somewhere in my vast wilderness of art supplies. So let's see if I can track it down. If not, we'll use, the nice thing about these pencils is they have an eraser on them, but I want one that's a little bit bigger. Well, we'll start with this. And I think that will be fine. We'll just kind of lighten it up and erase some of these extra lines. Okay. And, okay. So I think I'm going to just lightly add some color because I want to use the watercolor aspect of these pencils first, and then I'll go in and draw on top like I was using some colored pencils. And this one is the one I'm the most excited to try out. There are metallic pencils in here, so I'm going to use that for the pie pan. Okay, and then I think I'll start out with these and then we'll add more color then. So this is why it's good to have either scrap paper with you or if you have a paper towel. And I'm just going to grab my sketchbook and use the back here just to clear off the color from the last time I used the brush. So like I said, a paper towel will work really well for this, but if you don't have those handy, just a scrap piece of paper will work. There's still a little bit of a pink tinge to it, but that's okay. So you still can see some of the metallic shininess to it. Some of that is the water from the paper, but there's still a little bit of that metallic shininess. I think that's fun. And so with these pencils, if you want to mix a color, you will just put both of the colors that you want to mix on the paper, and then from there you can blend it together with the water brush or water paintbrush that you have, or you can just leave it mixed together on the paper. Okay. So I'm going to let it dry a little bit. If you're ever doing a drawing and you're pressed for time and you need it to dry quickly, instead of just standing there fanning it like that, like I was doing, you could also get either a hair dryer. I would not recommend a heat gun because you don't really need the heat to dry it, but you could always use a hair dryer to dry. Oh, and Jennifer Roy asked a question about why did I choose to use the hot press instead of cold. So I chose the hot press because I like to be able to go back on top of my watercolor paintings with usually pen or a colored pencil after the watercolor to bring out the details and add some line work. And I've found that for me, it's easier to do that. And sometimes I can go in and get a really nice soft gradient or a nice light color. And it applies a lot more easily on the smooth surface of hot press versus the really bumpy surface of cold press. Again, one is not better than the other. It just depends on what you're hoping to get out of your final drawing. that you'll have an easier time with one or the other, depending on what you want it to look like in the end. Okay, so now go in with brown. I'm going to outline. And I'm going for kind of a stylized look. So it's going to be like it's tilted a little bit, so you can see more of the top. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, and I've tried a lot of different kinds of paper, and for my style, I like to have things be a little bit more soft looking. So that's why I like the hot press a little bit more, but sometimes I like to have the nice, classical watercolory type of surface. Okay, so I'm trying to decide if I want it to be cherry pie or blueberry pie. So if anybody has suggestions for if it should be cherry or blueberry, you can put it in the chat. And while you guys are kind of thinking about whether this should be a blueberry or cherry pie, I'm going to go in and just kind of soften out some of these edges a little bit and create kind of a shadowy effect by just feathering them a bit. Okay, cherry. We vote for cherry. That's a little more water than I meant to get. That's okay. 3 votes for cherry. We have a blueberry vote. Blueberry is personally my favorite flavor, but I'm a fan of all pies. So I truly am always happy when I'm in a situation where I can be eating pie. I work in an academic library, and my coworkers are going to have a pie party on the 14th, which I'm very excited about. And we're all going to bring in pie and eat pie at work, which I think is a very good day to spend a work day. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, as much as I love blueberry and we got some blueberry votes, it sounds like cherry is the winner for tonight. But as a consolation prize, you can go out and eat some blueberry pie. And I think then we'll all be winners. Okay. I'm going to spread this out a little bit more, just to create a little bit of a shadow. So you can see what's kind of cool is, you don't have to always blend it all out, but you can kind of, what I'm doing is just kind of gently pulling a little bit of the color out to create a shadow from the outline. And that way I'm not getting a really intense color, but I'm getting enough of it that, you get the idea that it is a shadow. Like that. And so, okay, so it looks like we're going to go with cherry. And yes, there are very beautiful red colors. So I'm going to fill in. This is why I started to kind of just give myself a guide for where the lines would be, but I didn't want to outline them yet. So now I'm coloring in where you would see the filling poking through the lattice top of the pie. And if you're just joining in, hello and welcome. Glad to have you here with us this evening. I always like drawing something that has a pattern. And I'm, like I said, I'm just being kind of not super planned out with the drawing. It's meant to be a little bit more loose looking, not super perfect or realistic, but just something fun to play around with color. And again, it's meant to be in kind of a wonky perspective, so you see a little bit more of the top of it since we're looking at it from the side. And then I'm going to go in and just kind of add a little bit more of the color in the background. And so the reason that I kind of added the watercolor layer underneath is so that that color is coming through and blending in with the colored pencil. So rather than, because you can still see some of the texture of the paper, even though it's a smoother paper, rather than having it be the white of the paper coming through, now we have a little bit of that really light brown color that I made with mixing the colors before. And add in some purple. Oh, thank you. Getting some really nice comments in the chat. Nice to see all of my regular friends from ArtSnacks. I'm so glad to have you here. Another reason to join the ArtSnacks community, whether you're on Mix or any of the other social media platforms, because I've found everyone is just so nice and so friendly, and I've made so many friends. And I love seeing everybody's artwork. It's just so great. It's really fun. Okay, and go back in with some more of the silver. Just add some more of that metallic. I feel like I made it almost kind of looks like a cupcake. It's like a cupcake pie. But it's more just about playing around and having fun. Sometimes I feel like I overthink my drawings, and I don't have as much fun when I'm worried about making it perfect. I have more fun when I'm just putting marks down on the paper and drawing. Because you can always do more drawings, and they don't always all have to be perfect. So the most important thing is that you have fun while you make them. And some of these ones. So I'm just kind of layering the marks on the paper. And that's why I was so excited to use these, because I can use them in so many different ways. I can, like I said, use the watercolor to tone my paper, or just add a really light wash of color. Then I can go in and fill in with the pencils, and then go in and do some line work too, which is really nice. So it's pretty cool. And I like that I can, because they're waxy, you can, hopefully you can see. I'm trying to get the focus to come back. But you can see that, the colors sit on top of each other really nicely. So you can add layers of color that way too. Wow, how exciting. So I just saw a comment from Jennifer that ArtSnacks changed her life, and some of her illustrations were published in her book. How cool. Oh, that makes me so happy to hear. I feel like that's really just the amazing community atmosphere and the encouragement and, just trying out new things. How wonderful. Congratulations. That's amazing. Aw, that's so great. Yeah, everyone is so wonderful. I've, been really happy to find the community, and so, it's really great, and everyone's always welcome. There's always new people joining every day, which I really love. So it's great to just always be making friends and talking about art and learning from each other. It's very cool. So it's so much more than just getting the art supplies. It's all that extra amazing stuff that comes with it. I think it's just so awesome. I love it. Okay. And add some white on top. Okay. And I'm just going in and adding. So I added in some shadows. I'll go in and add some highlights. And I'm gonna soften up some of these lines because as I see them on the screen, they're a little bit dark. So I'm just gonna soften them up a little bit. And that's something that's kind of cool too, is, as long as it doesn't interfere with what you're originally planning, you can kind of soften out or lighten up some of your lines just with the watercolor brush. So I'm curious what everyone else is working on, or if you're working on something or just hanging out and relaxing, or if you're working on a drawing, if maybe you got something from the sale and you're playing around with some nice new supplies. So sometimes what I'll do is when I want my lines to go like they're supposed to be in a certain type of pattern, or I want them to look a certain way, I will make sure that I use either my brush strokes or my drawing strokes all in the same direction. And that can be a trick if you're having a hard time getting something to look like it has a particular type of surface. You can always try creating all your lines as if they were going in the same direction, and that will kind of help give the illusion of texture or a surface. It depends on the texture, but that can be a helpful trick you might want to try out. Okay, so now the reason why I asked what kind of pie is, now what I'm going to do is draw some little characters who are jumping out of the pie. We'll do 3. Oh, cool. I'm reading through some of the comments here too. Oh, very cool. I like that Melissa is working on the original character. And we have Lizette is working on Spider-Gwen. That's very cool. Very cool. And Rodney has never used the waxy pencil before, so hopefully this is a fun thing for you to be trying out if you have one. Very cool. Nicole is practicing writing in Old English letters. That's really cool. That's a whole art in and of itself. So very impressive. Now let's see, what pencil or pen do I want to do? I think I'm going to use one of these pencils to do some of these details on, but I'm going to give our little characters some faces. I'm going to add the stems, even though they wouldn't have the stem in the pie. I think they read more easily as cherries when they have the stem. Otherwise, they might be currants or some other type of little berry. Give a little stem. So these little cherries are breaking free from the pie. Yeah, it's harder to, they don't look as much like a cherry without the stem, so that's just to help them be a little bit more clear. And I'll draw some little like bits of pie flying out. Maybe there's like a little bit of like a more crumbly part where they came out and broke the pie crust. Oh yeah, no, I agree. I agree that it's a little harder to know that they're a cherry without the stem, so that's why I added it. So yeah, I agree with you. Draw a sad blueberry. Yeah, I'll put a sad little blueberry in there too. I like that suggestion. And we'll put the sad little blueberry over here. And I'll give that the little like green topper, maybe green pencil. It's a little harder to see because it's darker, but it's frowning. It has a little crying face. You hold it up a little closer. Here's our sad blueberry. And then we have our little cherry friends. I'm going to add some little shadows under their feet. So, oops. So that they look like they're standing on the surface. And then that's the little shadow under that cherry. Beautiful blue. Yes, sad and blue. Sometimes I just have too much fun when I'm doing drawings. Make myself laugh. But that means that I'm having a good time. And I think that's another big important part of drawing is you should be able to have fun and sometimes make yourself laugh. So now I'll add a little more purple under the shadow. This was a cool thing I learned. I can't remember when I learned it. Maybe I was in college. It was either high school or college when I learned that shadows are not always like black or gray, that they are actually kind of a blue or a purple depending on the lighting. And honestly, they can change their color depending on the lighting. That's a whole conversation I could get into, but we don't have the time. But it's an interesting color theory thing, and I always thought it was really neat when I started adding purple into my shadows to create a sense of depth. And you can also add some purple in. I don't think I'm going to blend this out, but I'm just going to add in some purple, add in some more colors. But it's pretty cool trick that you can do to add some shadows if you don't want your shadows to be super dark. Oh, great. Aw, thanks, everybody. Oh, thanks, Emma. I'm just reading through the comments now. We have from our friend What Happened Was that this month's box, the March box, has making all kinds of stuff. And you couldn't stop. That's great. I haven't opened mine yet. I'm saving it for later so that I can enjoy it during one of the open studios. But I'm really excited to see what everybody does with it. I always love seeing when people take the ArtSnacks challenge and try to use all the materials in their box. And when they just come up with something new and creative when they're trying a brand new art supply they haven't used before, that's always really cool. So I love seeing it. So I can't wait to see what everybody has been working on. And Emma was saying that the artwork that I make reminds her of her childhood. So thank you. That's a really nice thing to say. I appreciate that. Yeah, I make a lot of my illustrations that I make are for like children's books, but I like to do all kinds of art. So usually when I'm thinking about a drawing, it's usually something that's kind of fun or cute like that. So yeah. So I'm just going to add a couple more little details in here, and then I think I'm going to wrap up the drawing and talk a little bit about some of the things that I mentioned earlier, just as a reminder. But I really think it's amazing. I always love doing these types of drawing challenges because I feel like I get so much done, and I'm all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been an hour, which is always really cool. And I much prefer losing an hour of my time because I was doing something fun like drawing. Then sometimes I tend to get distracted by things like my phone. So it makes me happy when, I'm sitting down and working on a drawing. So sometimes you just have to make the time. I'm just going to mix these colors a little bit more. And I won't do this for every drawing, but I want to add a little quote from this guy. It says, "Happy Pi Day." And that's the symbol for pi on there. So, oh, the blueberry is just sad because he's not in the pie, but he can still be friends with all the cherries. So he's only left out for a little bit. So it'll be a happy ending for the pie, or I mean for the blueberry. Okay, so that was really fun. I really enjoyed doing this drawing. I don't draw desserts very often, but I really think I should draw more of them because they're fun. So let me just go back over everything. So now you're very familiar with these Stabilo woody pencils. And if you're a ArtSnacks subscriber, you already have one. So I hope that you got a chance to try it out. Maybe this inspired you to try some things out. But again, I have the big giant set with lots of colors, but they do have smaller sets if you're just looking for a couple of colors. My personal preference, if I'm getting a smaller set, I always like to make sure I have all the primary colors. So, red, blue, and yellow. Because these mix any color under the sun because they're the primaries. So, of course, you can make orange, you can make green, you can make purple. So you can make all those colors. And then I also like to try to get a set that will also have black and white because you can make the lighter and darker values of the color. So if you need a lighter, say if you need pink, you can make pink, or if you need a darker red, you can make a darker red. So if you're looking for a smaller set, I would recommend these, but honestly, try anything because I think they'll all be really fun. And sometimes it's nice to have colors that you wouldn't normally have in your set, and you can have some special colors too. So, oh, and let me just talk about the supplies in case you missed it. So in addition to that, I was also using, I played around with this hybrid Technica. It's a Pentel pen. I was using these Derwent water brushes. They just have plain water in the barrel, and you can use them like a paintbrush with water without the water cup. I used a mechanical pencil. This one is the Zebra M350. It's a 7mm. It's a nice handy drawing pencil. It has a nice heavy weight to it. There's also Marabou art crayons. I was showing an example of that. I used some Koh-i-Noor polycolor colored pencils. This Pigma pen. And then the paper I used, let me grab, oh, where did I put it? Somewhere around here. I used the Faber-Castell, oh, who's hiding under the sketchbook? I used this Faber-Castell Fabriano, it's not Faber-Castell, Fabriano. Wait, it's the end of the night. This is a mixed media sketchbook, and then the fluid hot press finish paper was what I did my pie drawing on. So as a reminder, if you are interested in checking out the ArtSnacks Shop for some of these materials, if you go to shop.artsnacks.co, tomorrow is the last day to use the 50% off select sale items in the shop. And then you can also use this promo code for $10 off any 3, 6, or 12-month plan or quarterly plan, and that's through March 31st, so you have more time with that one. And if you drew along with me, or if you just want to check out the community on Mix, it's free to join. You just go to mix.artsnacks.co. It's through Mighty Networks, and it's really awesome. And there are lots of different types of little art groups that you can check out, or you can just have a nice feed of all people's artwork. It's a really great, super helpful community too. I've gotten some good feedback, and I've seen some good feedback from other people on there. I hope you'll come back. This is going to be, the Open Studio Live is going to be every Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. So if you are just looking for a way to wind down the evening after school or work, and you just want to hang out and watch some drawing, awesome. Please feel free to draw along anytime, but be really happy to have you back here just playing around with some art supplies and hanging out in the studio. So yeah, join us next week. And thank you so much to everybody who hung out with me. It was so nice having you here. And I just really enjoy everyone's energy and positivity. Your questions have been awesome. So thank you so much, everybody. And I hope that you have a great rest of your night. Good night, everyone.